in tech and you're trying to solve difficult problems, very boring problems sound a lot more fun. So good evening, or whatever time it is. This is another episode of Anatomy of a Hustler. I'm Jenise.
And I'm Cope.
And I guess I'm sharing this big news.
I mean, it's kind of obvious news for those watching, but if you're listening, you could probably hear the glow in her voice.
I am 6 months pregnant. We are going to have a girl.
Oh, shit.
So girls run the world, basically.
Hey.
And so come Christmas time, there'll be another one of me running around this world.
Holy shit.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, I think it's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing.
She's going to grow up in a very loving home, all that good stuff, surrounded by
Start
hustlers.
a business by the time she's 5. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, you can adopt me too, and we'll make a whole hustler family.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's the dream, right?
Right.
That is the literal dream, is like have all my kids start a business before they turn 18 at least once and fail.
Oh yeah. That's the best way to go about it. I was reflecting on that. I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I have spun off a lot of like amazing failures.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
I mean,
what's one that sticks out to you most recently?
The one that sticks out most recently that probably had the most potential for upside was like a Groupon spinoff. This was at the time where that was kind of hot, and now it's kind of fizzled. But it could have done more. I just sucked at sales, and I was busy doing a lot of other things. Yeah, and I mean, I still kind of suck at it too. But
it's okay.
Yeah, we can unpack pretty much all the bad. Not bad. I don't want to say bad, but all the lessons learned from the multitude of businesses I've tried to or had my hand in or been a part of.
I'm in the same boat, but that's funny that you say that you're bad at sales, but the first thing you wanted to talk about today was about doing cold better.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes. How do you go from that to being like, let's talk about this? I did get a cold call today.
Ooh.
And it's so funny because I know the script. They're like, the reason why I'm calling is, and I just like, my favorite sport is to grill SDRs or sales reps.
Yep.
Not because I'm mean, but it's fun to be like, okay, so what are you trying to sell me? Why am I a good fit? Et cetera, et cetera. And if they start crumbling at like a few questions, I feel like, you should get a new job. You should get a new job, dude.
and is that bad, or are you doing them a favor?
I'm giving them a good practice, so I grill them like it's a sport. It's really fun.
Yeah, and as someone who doesn't naturally enjoy like the sales process, I have a very extended, high touch, like service as sales kind of approach, but we do some cold outreach. Ooh. And the plan is to definitely start doing more. But we're not going to do it in the same shitty way of like, all right, export lists from LinkedIn and run it into CRM. And I cannot imagine that even at volume, even at scale, that the shitty, cold, generic outreach is doing anything for anybody.
Can I tell you that out of all of the bad salespeople had, there's one really good salesperson. We ended up buying their software because it just wasn't a good fit. Mm-hmm. But me and my coworker, he's in sales, and we called him our like sales work crush, like our career crush, because he was so good at sales. And we were like, we just love you. We just want to tell you we love you so much, but we're not going to buy your software.
Yeah.
And you're good at your job. And if you ever want a job with us, like we would hire.
Oh my God, he was that good.
But he was that good. And it wasn't because he had fancy lines. It wasn't because he like was like maneuvering us into a decision. The key things that like stood out about him is he was super consultative.
I think that's the word.
And then he, if he didn't know something, he admitted it.
Yes.
Ooh, that was so good. And so he'd be like, I've only been here for a couple months, but I'd love to look into that for you. And then within an hour or 2 or 3 hours, however long his turnaround time was, he would give me like resources. So he was like stacking with his resources on resources, and we worked with him for like, I want to say 3 months, and we did like a pilot, and we ended up not doing the software, but he was like our ultimate like sales crush. Like it was kind of cheesy, but like after having bad cold calls and bad sales processes and then having a really good one, you're like, I would love every one of my experiences to look like this.
God, yes.
So
please.
That was my favorite one, but you're telling people, I'm assuming because you have not had good cold call experiences. Talked about that.
admittedly, I now answer the phone less, which I'm trying to work on because I almost ignored a call that's been kind of a fruitful conversation thus far that could potentially lead to some work. So I'm glad I picked up the phone that day. But God, there's just so much that's kind of pre-recorded bullshit. Or the ones that get me are the very clear LinkedIn request to conversation opener to like, oh, want to join the mastermind. Those I'm just like immediate, nope. Bye. Get off of my LinkedIn. Thank you. But the emails, I get emails almost every single day. Like, I don't need a video editor. I don't need this random CRM software that you're convinced is going to handle all the same bullshit cold outreach you're doing to me. That's going to handle this for me. No fucking thank you.
Rough times for CRM people.
Yeah, it's rough times. I get it. It's rough time for CRM. And I understand that I'm hard to sell to as is automatically. I get that. But what spawned this whole thought of do cold better was I got an email and it said, it got me to click. So there's a nugget of wisdom in here probably. Open rate up. Yep. So someone is going to look at that and take it as a signal of success. And cool. Good. Do that. It was, hey, we haven't chatted in a while. And I saw that preview and I was like, maybe I met this person at a networking event, whatever, right? I clicked on it. I opened it. And in the first sentence, it was, how are everything going at, and there was nothing
fill
there.
in the blank. Oh, didn't have the
Nope, just the period.
the
Space,
mail merge.
Period. Yeah, mail merge tag not found, something. And I just sat there and I was like, this is a D-. This is so bad. I would give it a C.
Did you give them feedback?
No, I'm not going to respond to them. I don't want it to trigger that my email is actually valid. I'm hoping that they just drop me out of the sequence. I'd hit they didn't even have an unsubscribe on it. Ooh, I'm calling the FTC or whoever handles that shit. But anyway, it's just like those details. Yeah. And those details, they matter. And especially if you're trying to speak to someone, like you were seen in the process that sales guy was going through.
He had no idea we were like obsessed with
it. Yeah, but this was probably natural for him. He's like, this is just what I do. Yeah. I give a fuck.
And that's what made the difference. Like, I think, I can't remember if they did cold outreach or if we had reached out to them, but either way, like just the process overall was pretty smooth. Like there wasn't really handoff. He was doing most of it until he had to like have us talk to like his VP of sales. Right. But that was such a good experience that like we would hire him. If I had a software company, I would hire him to sell software. Oh yeah. And I like, what it makes me realize is that that's what you're looking for, is like that authenticity. Yep. Of like, I don't know, I'm happy to find out. I'm happy to bring another expert in. But even in the first call, like if you don't know anything about our business, that's not rough. A good sign. That is really rough. Yep. Like, do you understand what we do? Do you understand who we market to? You kind of looked at some of what we're doing on marketing wise. Like, have you had a good experience at all being sold it to as a small business?
One that immediately comes to mind, I can't say yes. Oh.
A good challenge for all the salespeople.
Yeah, right. Yeah, blow up my inbox. Try to sell me something. Actually, no, please don't do any of that.
I'm good on software through the end of 2024.
Through probably the end of 2025.
We'll be considering it through Q1.
Yeah. Circle back. Yeah. Maybe we'll find some synergy in Q3 and 25.
25. That's a long way from
God, now. I know. Get me out. I don't want that. But no, I can't think of anyone that immediately stands out. But I can say that time and time again, those people that I've had interaction with where I've felt some sort of connection, even if we do no business together, if something comes up that they're related to that's would be a natural handoff, I'm trying to make that connection for them. Right?
So that's why the first touch, like the first impression's important.
So critical. And like missing a detail like that in an email, it's like, you're trying to sell me software. Yeah. If you're missing a fucking business name in the software, like what other holes are you missing? Like there's got to be some other shit there.
Salespeople love on your marketing people because that's someone's mail merge went wrong there.
Yep. Yeah. Do better. Do better. Ugh. Anyway.
So anyways, moving on from software.
Yep.
We were in a tech boom, I think, in the past, I don't know, 2008 was a good tech boom. We've kind of been in kind of hairy waters. We had a boom COVID, and then we're kind of seeing the effects of, the market not responding very well, like financially. A lot of startups are actually laying off people, which is kind of a scary time. Like I want to be excited that, there's going to be new software that comes out, and like lightweight scared that AI is going to eat all our jobs. Right. And so I've been thinking about, with my experience, like, is there a version of doing I wanted to start a software company. I was like, yeah, that'll be one of my goals one day.
I could see you as a tech
I'll do
mogul.
a startup one day. And now I just, like, maybe it's because I'm tired. Maybe it's because I'm seeing how layoffs are happening, but I've been thinking a lot about boring businesses. Like, boring. Like,
elaborate for the folk that don't know a boring business.
When I think of boring businesses, I think of businesses that already have a good product market fit.
Yep.
And there's like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel of how to sell to people. It already has like a pretty standard business plan. And so, for example, that would be like a car wash, or I've been really thinking about vending machines. Like, I want to buy a vending machine
hustle.
and then do something like fun with that.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple different versions of people filling up vending machines with like little trinkets and like coloring books and things like that.
Ooh, maybe like the foreign snacks.
Like
too.
foreign snack. Ooh, that's a good idea. Yeah, like have a hookup from like Japan and Korea.
Oh my God, I would buy the gummy Skittles that were, I think, Japanese. I think they were Japanese. They were in like, I was in San Diego and I saw them on the shelf and I was like, oh, I need that. And I loved them. So yeah, I co-sign. I'll invest. You let me know when you want to spin that off.
But I think as someone who, I don't know if this is like every person, but like when you're in tech and you're trying to solve difficult problems, very boring problems sound a lot more fun. Like simpler, easy problems. So like, where do you go to get your laundry done if you don't have a laundry machine?
Right.
How do you get your car wash cleaned?
Right.
I don't know if have you seen all of like the quick quack car washes popping up?
Oh yeah.
And they have a subscription and they have like a level and they have like upgrades and they have like good service and they hand you like the free little nappy. And I was like, whoa. Could you potentially convince me to pay $35 a month on a subscription to get my car cleaned at unlimited when I know my butt's not going to get my car cleaned more than once or twice a month?
Right. And
I'm like always this close. And so it's like they're taking these like elements of what software has taught us about like subscriptions and annual subscriptions or monthly subscriptions and then applying it to that boring business model. Like what else can we take from that? But I don't know. What are your thoughts on doing a boring business? Because right now your business is not boring.
My business is not boring at all.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it because I don't know if I have the patience for a boring business. But then again, if I saw like monthly recurring rev happening without having to use so much brain power, I would probably bite. Yeah, I love the idea because I think it's easy to get wrapped up in the appeal of what entrepreneurship looks like.
Starting a restaurant. Such small margins, such a grind.
Yeah, so much. And I love hospitality. You know, I love hospitality.
That's your background.
Yeah, right.
But that's not a boring business.
No, it's far from a boring business. But I think there's something to be said for being one of those fixtures in the community. And that's kind of what it really represents. It's like these businesses are a need.
Yeah.
They're not as pretty, but they're a need. I think there's ways you can make them pretty without making them complex, though.
I mean, you just gave a great example, like taking a vending machine at a popular, like take a train station or maybe a popular bus stop or something like that next to something and then do foreign stacks.
Yeah, that would be so rad.
My version would be like, like the seed oil free clean version, vegan option.
That's a great point. Yeah.
I think it just depends on the market and where you're at.
Big time.
Or maybe it's like fun stuff or like a California theme. I think I've seen this. Someone did like a California themed vending machine, and so it had like little like color in California, little trinkets from like small businesses who like wove this keychain for you or something like that. But there's a lot of different options.
Oh, I love that. Why don't I see more vending machines like that? Why are they always trying to sell me like 9-year-old trail mix and a Dr. Pepper?
I'm gonna go on Facebook Marketplace today and see how much a vending machine is. I think like $4 or $5K.
Report back.
Okay, report back.
Yeah, let me know. The audience is gonna want to know.
So
too.
if you haven't like looked at, if you're like, I think if you want to be successful, it doesn't have to be this traditional path of like carving this new category or making this new restaurant. I think that boring businesses are a great entry point. I'm not saying that's like the end all be all. I think it's a great way to test out a business model and see if it works. Yeah. Maybe pull in some cash from that.
Easy, right? Well, not easy, but yes, that.
Maybe that's the 2025 goal. Start a boring business.
Start a boring
A
business.
very boring business.
Okay. I like that. I like
After
that.
having a baby, yeah.
Yeah. Pop that kid out. Yeah, have a healthy child first, and then I guess we'll make that second. But yeah, that I've always thought about that in ATMs. I always thought like ATMs, higher risk though, obviously, probably a way higher startup cost. But I've walked into places that I'm like, why is there no ATM here?
You're literally speaking to someone who's the daughter of my family business was ATMs.
That was one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, you know, like the mix, that's like my parents' ATM.
No shot. Like today? To this day?
And then to this day. And then there was another restaurant that they were like, I don't want to call it out, but they were like, you need to nail down your ATM. And they were like, no, we didn't do it. And then they got their ATM stolen.
Oh, shit.
So they never put an ATM back in there, but it would have been a great place to put an ATM.
Yeah.
So I grew up in that business.
Oh.
It's not, I don't want to say it's boring, but it's like one of those things where there's a lot of different options to whether like you fill the money or you pay someone else to do the money. Having cash flow, like being able to have more cash, like increases your cash and like the surcharge and everything like that. So like that's what I grew up with. And
it seems lucrative.
It's lucrative, but like there's a lot of big companies who could just eat you up at the same time. Or if you build a portfolio.
Sure.
We can talk about this if you're really interested.
I kind of am.
Really? You think cash is going to be king or Bitcoin ATMs?
I think, I mean, Bitcoin ATMs would be kind of rad because I do like that in premise. And they do exist.
They do exist.
I just think that looking at how much I pay in fees just to run a business, if someone offered me cash, I would give them that same 3%.
Like cash discount?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I'll give you a 3% cash discount.
Yeah. And for me, cash will always be king. It feels good. It's less, I don't know. It just seems like digital, there's so many middlemen along the way that need their piece that I can't justify.
And as consumers, we don't know that. They're charging us in the back end.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
And we're just eating the cost.
Right.
And it's kind of like normal.
Right.
Who was I talking about this where it's like I pay for Instacart, but like there's like a 7% fee and then you have to pay like the tip and then they have like this other like California fee.
Yep.
And so when it's all said and done, by the time I pay for my groceries, I'm likely paying another $10 for it to be delivered, even though I already pay a $10 subscription.
And do you want to talk about the fee that Apple imposes on like everything that's purchased on from like an
what is that?
There's like a 30% fee that goes to Apple for like almost like every
apps.
Yeah. So like purchasing an app, like if you wanted to support a YouTube creator. Yeah. So I just saw the super things. I was looking at this last night. That's why it's like top of mind right now. And as I'm thinking about it, it like makes me viscerally mad at Apple, even though you own my business and my heart, you motherfuckers should be changing. And they do. They do. But if you want to send someone a super thanks, let's say I want to send $5 to this creator that I saw, and I'm like, cool, bravo to you. 30% is going to Apple, and then that doesn't include the 30% that YouTube is going to take.
Yep. And then at the same time, TikTok is the same way with TikTok Lives. They take 50%.
Holy shit.
So it's like, okay, so how do you take this model of like these hidden fees, surcharges, et cetera, and apply it to boring businesses? I feel like there's like something there. I'm not saying that it's like the best practice for us to do that, but I think this like membership subscription model, like, another semi-boring business, maybe not, but we had floated the idea of doing like a nail salon with a subscription. So if you did like a monthly subscription, you can get your nails fixed or redone or like, because people end up doing their nails every 2 weeks if they're pretty consistent. Right. And you can get upgrades and add, like, could that be something that's boring that you apply this kind of like subscription model to?
That's a good idea. I think
it's to run the numbers, but.
Right. I mean, most of those, they work because there's a certain point of people that don't utilize it. It's kind of like insurance, right? So there's something to be said there. But that's a really interesting, right? That's a really interesting premise. Yeah. Very cool. I like that. And I think, honestly, so much about boring business, too. Peace of mind, man. Peace of mind, because there's so much. I don't want to like turn this into a vent session. We could do that off camera.
But it's like hands off. You may or may have like 1 or 2 employees who help you, but it should be hands off would be the goal. Right. So like if you're doing vending machines or laundromat, maybe you have someone who runs it and monitors it. But when you're collecting your coins or seeing what happens at the end of the day, like less overhead, less people.
Yeah, because every single one of those things is a potential friction point. And it's, God, where do I get started on the headaches of running a business? But I mean, you have your own. You have your own. Why don't what is life in startup life like for that then?
For
The
dealing with
headaches,
people.
like, because clearly you can't just clock in and only focus on one thing, right? Like, I definitely can't only singularly focus on one thing. There's a lot of moving pieces. We're not in boring businesses. So in your world, what does that look like?
I always think about, I don't know, I've seen this TikTok, but I relate to it so hard where it's like, I literally sit at my computer and I'm typing at it. And like, these are the people who are sitting at their computer at home are running the world, are running the software that you use every day. But the headache part about it, I think like this is why like eventually we'll probably leave startup is just people. Like there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of politics, and this is for any company, because whether it's a startup or like a Fortune 500 company,
Yep.
People is like essential to making your business run. So whether you're good or at leading people or not, you have to become good at leading people. You have to be good at understanding people. That's why when you go to business school, there's a psychology course, right? And so I don't know if you've experienced this, but like I've learned a lot about people in my career in the past 7 to 8 years than I ever have just like dealing with like you don't really get that experience in college. You don't really get that experience in high school or younger. Like you deal with people and there's like mean girls and things like that. But the true test is like you have to live your life, make a living, and deal with people and figure out what you're going to bring home with you or not.
Yeah, that's God. I go back to like the one nightmare class project that I had when I was in college. And I think that's probably the closest that I can think of for what that headache factor is like of having to do anything with other people sometimes. And that's not to say like, oh, great, I can't wait for robots to replace half the headache people that I have ever dealt with, as much as it is like, yeah, I think there's a certain point where a small team is like really effective. That's why I like really like to stay small and intentional and all those good things. And I can also say that sometimes there are people that are not a great fit and they got to be removed.
So talk about that. That was something you felt passionately about this recently, just about what happens when there's people who don't fit, whether it's like your ethos, your business model, or just like align with what you believe in and maybe are hindering your ability to achieve your business goals.
The wrong person is a cancer. That's the nicest way to put it. The wrong person is a fucking cancer, and that's dramatic, and I get that. But even if they're benign, like they're still consuming space and time and resources. And in the worst case scenario, they are poisoning everything around them. And I've dealt with this in multiple teams, not even just like my business and the various people that I've come across. I've dealt with it from like a client, from team, from like 1 degree removed. Like there's just so many times where like the people around you do absolutely impact your ability to do, create, be, whatever. And it's critical to have the right people.
Ooh, so there was this question. It was like, would you rather have somebody who has a good personality but with less skill, or would you hire somebody with a lot of skill but not a great personality?
Never on that last one. I would never, because
so you prefer someone with personality and less skill.
I personality being like a very open-ended, like it's got to be the right
good
personality.
It's like easy to work with, is open to learning.
Open to learning is the biggest thing. That is the biggest thing that I've found, that if you're not willing to experience the discomfort that learning requires sometimes, then you're not going to be someone that I want to work with.
How do you measure that? How do you figure that out in an interview or when you're like trying to work with someone,
Challenge.
whether it's a client or it's like a potential employee?
Yeah, I think because I've been on the planet for a while and I've always kind of felt like I've had a general decent sense of like who people are in a pretty quick turnaround. That I feel like I can kind of feel it. I really listen to my gut a lot, as woo-woo and corny as that sounds. Like I'm really trying to hone in on that more and more, because every time I've made mistakes, I've been ignoring a little alarm that's been going off. Yeah.
And how has that affected your business in the past?
God. I mean, seriously, it's a cancer, because like it weighs on you even when you're off, even when you're trying to just be disconnected. Like there's no such thing as like work-life balance, right? And those problems,
not when you're running a business.
No, never. Those problem children are just always gonna like consume some piece of you.
Yeah.
And you continue to throw things into this like black hole that
Mm-hmm.
nothing then comes out, or like glimmers and then nothing. And then, yeah, it's just this vicious cycle that it's
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be removed.
So can I tell you a couple of the ways that whether it's something I've observed with my husband's business or something I've observed working in corporate, is like the way to figure that out pretty quickly before you hire somebody is to actually do reference checks. And not like, oh, hot, like, did you like working with this person, or like, oh, they had a good resume, but like actually picking up the phone and calling their previous boss, like cold call, like not telling them that you're going to call them, or find someone that they worked with.
Mm-hmm.
So do two things. One is like ask for the references.
Mm-hmm.
Those references are obviously going to be biased.
Mm-hmm.
Do backdoor references. So people that they may have worked for in the past. And so when my husband found this out about his ex-employee, he called his past boss after the drama.
After the fact? Oh, no.
And he learned the hard way. He was like, oh, you didn't have great things to say. You did struggle with this. And yes, I'm dealing with the same thing. And I'm not saying that people aren't capable of growing or like changing or improving.
Right.
But like you said, openness to learning is so important.
Yep.
And so I think like there's a couple, I'm trying to think of like questions you can ask about them, but it's like, maybe it's like, what did you learn from your last role? Well, you know, what's something that you're really proud of, and what was your contribution to that? Who did you work with in that past project or past role? Or for clients, it's like, hey, you know, have you worked with agencies before? You know, if you're open to sharing, like, was there something about them that like with whether it's like their working style that you didn't like, or something that you would prefer in a future partner?
Yep.
And so I think all those questions are so necessary now. Like, it's so easy to be excited and hyped up and be like, somebody wants to invest in my business and be part of this.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, we should have done all that background, and it would have saved me 6 months of headaches or a year of headaches or however long.
And there's such a heavy cost to that, because there's a financial component to that too, which I can speak on ad nauseum and won't, because like I've definitely learned from those lessons. So everything I've done, I learned it as tuition. That's kind of how I rank it, as like, okay, cool, I paid tuition. That's a good lesson.
Ooh.
But the immeasurable is like that, what that person has in terms of impact on everything around them. Everything around them. And there's just like a weight to it that otherwise you take the ankle weights off and suddenly you're walking, then sprinting, then running.
That feeling is so good when you actually do realize it. But it's hard to look back retrospectively and be like, oh, I was holding myself back, or I was holding my team back. Yep. Oh,
and going back to the learning, like I'm always going to be learning. I'm always going to be trying to improve. I'm always going to try to find the glimmer of optimism in everything.
I was about to say the same thing. I love people, so I'm always rooting for them, even if it looks bleak. I'm like, they could change. Everyone's capable of change.
Right.
But the like experience version of myself is like, okay, you can see patterns.
Yep.
You know when something's going to go south. And it's not because it's not for lack of trying. It's definitely like, okay, we have tried. They're showing this same thing over and over again.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is fire that person, though.
You heard that before, right?
I've heard it, and it's so easy to listen to these things and be like, ooh, that makes sense.
Like hire slow, fire fast.
Yep. All those, heard them all. But it's so easy to hear those things and to not enact them because we hold out faith, right? And there's like all those moments of like, yes, it's working.
Like the little win, like like, oh, it clicked in their brain, and so you're like wanting that to grow.
Right.
Except I do think about the ROI a lot. Like now it's like, okay, the ROI of like, if I continue to work on them, is my time worth continuing to encourage them and invest in them versus the output? Like, has their output become better, or is it just like this feel good moment of like, they like had a good meeting with me?
Yes. And they weren't an asshole to me. Yay. Like you start measuring for bare minimum. And where that gets to be a problem is if you continue to stoop down to their level, you're never reaching yours.
Yeah.
And that's what I look at for so many people that are in my position or your position, because you're shackled to that person's ineptitude.
Yeah.
No matter what you do.
I mean, the best you can do is stay in your lane and try your hardest.
I mean, the best thing you do is fire those motherfuckers. Like, it's potentially the best thing to happen to them. Like, I would not be able to sit here right now and be where I'm at had I not been fired. Like,
ooh,
so there's good that comes from it. Like, and sometimes you need something to fully break for that change to then happen.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
You got to cut it out. And so something had to be removed, and then something beautiful blossoms in its place.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just business, right? No hard feelings.
I hate that, though.
I know, but it's like it's business.
I think it's more than that, though. I think it's an ecosystem, and things can only thrive if that is a positive ecosystem. If you're pumping fucking poison in the well, the community dies.
Yeah, the cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ouch.
God, that got a little dark. Sorry.
It did get a little dark, but it's okay. We're still positive, optimistic.
I know, we're still annoyingly
who believes
optimistic.
in people.
Yes.
I do believe in people.
Yeah.
But we've had some hardened lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I think it does give you the optics to look out for it in the future, and then it also does give you a really, really deep appreciation for yourself. Because you grow a lot in those processes of having to deal and be around those people and then remove those people, or in your case, maybe the company removes those people, that you then are like, cool, all right, like one, I'm walking a little bit lighter, and then I'm also kind of on the lookout for some of those patterns, like you said.
Oh. So I'm going to challenge you.
Ooh.
Do you write in your journal every day? Do you have a journal? Or?
I do have a journal. I have a journal practice that's not very rigorous. It's kind of like as I'm inspired or as I need it. Like I kind of feel like, oh man, I haven't written in a while. And then I'll pop in and I'll see like, oh shit, I haven't written in my journal in like 9 or 10 days. That usually seems to be the cutoff of where like things start to feel a little shaky.
Yeah. I'm a huge believer that like everyone's a leader in whatever position they're in. Like you have the ability to lead. But the challenge that I was given was to write like one thing you learned every day, whether it's like a direct result of like something you experience as a leader or something that you learned watching someone else lead, or maybe it's like an anecdote you heard, but like every day writing that one thing down.
Interesting. Have you been doing it?
I just started. Today's the first day, but yesterday I had learned something, so I was like, cool, I'm gonna write this down.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I guess if you're then reflecting on like, I don't know what I learned, then you're probably not paying attention, or
I mean, it's somewhere in my brain. Or like text myself, which is really bad because it's just my text messages are just me back and forth sending me things. I saw somewhere that like that's an ADD person thing.
Great.
It's just me and myself
I think
texting
Jenise
things.
just diagnosed me with ADHD.
I think the internet diagnosed me with that. They're like, do you not organize your notes? Do you just text yourself? I was like, I do.
I've been attacked.
And then I just like search the search bar, be like, hey, what was that one thing I said I was gonna do?
Yeah, right. But there's something cool to that. I like that. I can try that.
So my challenge for you is that. So next time we chat,
okay,
I'd love for you to pull like the best insight that you learn, and I'll pull mine.
Okay. I've been doing a light version of that, I feel like, with my recent spin-off of weekly LinkedIn posts that have been really beneficial. So this would probably actually help a lot with that.
That's a good challenge for myself too. Like just post that leadership insight on LinkedIn.
That's right. That's how you become that subject matter expert and the thought leader and all the things.
Yeah.
How you become the ATM queen pin.
Vending machines. Dude, want to go in on a vending machine?
Let's do it.
We just got to find a location.
That's it.
Okay.
We'll find someone.
We're going on Facebook Marketplace right now.
All right, bet. All right. Then I think that's a good way to wrap up, and then we'll head over to the Facebook Marketplace, and we'll report back on what we found.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting today, and then we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks.